This week's guest, Zach Galifianakis, has written over plenty of short stories, and I know what you're thinking. Well, you're probably not thinking anything about I had a show a few shows ago where I interviewed a novelist, but I don't expect you to have heard it, because if I did expect that, that would be wrong, because I think I'm so cool that I don't even consider the possibility that you who are listening to my voice right now have not listened to every previous episode of this small show. So my point is, I have a short story writer today named Zach. I met him a couple of weeks ago. He writes some pretty wild stories, kind of like Pomo stories, like Pomo. He does a lot of Pomo. And before I ask you to read your story, it was my favorite story so far. I haven't read all of your stories, but I have read several, and The Death of the Little Hen is one of my favorite so far, and I will ask you to read that. Full disclosure now, Zach, but before I make you do that, I want you to tell me about how it all works for you. What's the difference between writing a novel and writing short stories and stuff, Zachary? Peter, I have 3 words for you. Quite a bit. I don't want to bog you down. I don't want to get you all... Listen, the point is, I personally, because I love this program, and I tune in every week at the same time at 8:30 p.m. Sunday nights on WKUZ. Not to plug or anything, but I did hear your episode with that novelist who had a very nice name, and all I could do not to call in and, hey, Zach, you should have called in, man. Well, yeah, maybe I should have, but if I did, you would have had to bleep a lot of my curses out, because I was getting mad at him, because I just could tell so hard that he had written novels, and everyone knows so much about the rivalry between authors of novels and short stories. Oh yeah, Zach, I can think of about 15 well-worn, deeply grooved cliches to ascribe to each team, but let's not do that. No, I don't think I'm gonna do that tonight. All I know is that dude he sucked. But here's what I do. I'm gonna tell you now. I'm gonna get super technical. So when I sit down at my typewriter and I never write more than 7,500 words per plot. It's all about plot chunk. Like pop quiz, Peter. How many plots does a novel have? We could have more than one. But what was the first number that you thought of? Name the first number. Alright, it was 1. I thought of 1 first. Good. A+, little man. Now I'm going to ask you a second question. Are you ready? Are you ready, Peter? Yes. Thank you, Zach. How many plots does a short story have? 1. Good. And yet, they have different numbers of words. I know I'm getting kind of, a little inside baseball right now, but, bear with me. This is going to make great radio, okay? What I do is make 1,000,000 plots, and I'm talking, I'm just trying to think of some plots that I've been working out. I mainly do, after I write all my character sketches down, I write about 1,000 words for all my characters, and if I have like 5 characters in a story, I'll have 5,000 words for them, and that's just the sketches. And then I have I storyboard the plot, and I just get it all taken care of, and I describe like the meetings of the... it just works out, okay? And when I send the stories around, I make sure to tell them 3 cool things about me and the person who I am. For example, my story called Snout got 3rd place in a contest. So I make sure I tell everybody that. Now, what kind of contest did it get the bronze medal in, Zach? It was in the, it was in the Pomo competition. So I was wondering if you could just maybe read The Death of the Little Hen, your most Pomo story. Yeah, but I was just wondering, I'd be happy to, but I would love to smoke a cigarette during, and I swear it won't seem like I am, because when I read my Pomo stories, I like to have a certain brand of cigarettes. Do you see them? I'm shaking them in my hand, but do you see what the brand is? Yeah, of course. You love Pomo. So here's my story. Ready? Oh, I was ready the moment. The Death of the Little Hen by Zach Galifianakis. Once upon a time, the little hen went with the little cock to the nut hill, and they agreed together that whichsoever of them found a kernel of a nut should share it with the other. Then the hen found a large, large nut, but said nothing about it, intending to eat the kernel herself. The kernel, however, was so large that she could not swallow it, and it remained sticking in her throat, so that she was alarmed lest she should be choked. Then she cried, "Cock, I entreat you to run as fast as you can and fetch me some water, or I shall choke." The little cock did run as fast as he could to the spring, and said, "Stream, you are to give me some water. The little hen is lying on the nut hill, and she has swallowed a large nut and is choking." The well answered, "First run to the bride, and get her to give you some red silk." The little cock ran to the bride and said, "Bride, you are to give me some red silk. I want to give red silk to the well. The well is to give me some water. I am to take the water to the little hen who is lying on the nut hill and has swallowed a great nut kernel and is choking with it." The bride answered, "First run and bring me my little wreath which is hanging to a willow." So the little cock ran to the willow and drew the wreath from the branch and took it to the bride, and the bride gave him some red silk for it, which he took to the well, who gave him some water for it. Then the little cock took the water to the hen, but when he got there, the hen had choked in the meantime, and lay there dead and did not move. Then the cock was so distressed that he cried aloud, and every animal came to lament the little hen, and 6 mice built a little carriage to carry her to her grave, and when the carriage was ready, they harnessed themselves to it, and the cock drove. On the way, however, they met the fox, who said, "Where are you going, little cock?" "I am going to bury my little hen." "May I drive with you?" "Yes, but seat yourself at the back of the carriage, for in the front my little horses could not drag you." Then the fox seated himself at the back, and after that the wolf, the bear, the stag, the lion, and all the beasts of the forest did the same. Then the procession went onwards, and they reached a stream. "How are we to cross over?" said the little cock. A straw was lying by the stream, and it said, "I will lay myself straight across, and then you can drive over me." But when the 6 mice came to the bridge, the straw slipped and fell into the water, and the 6 mice all fell in and were drowned. Then they were again in difficulty, and a coal came and said, "I am large enough. I will lay myself across, and you shall drive over me." So the coal also laid itself across the water, but unhappily just touched it, at which the coal hissed, was extinguished, and died. When a stone saw that, it took pity on the little cock, wished to help him, and laid itself over the water. Then the cock drew the carriage himself, but when he got it over and reached the shore with the dead hen, and was about to draw over the others who were sitting behind as well, there were too many of them. The carriage ran back, and they all fell into the water together and were drowned. Then the little cock was left alone with the dead hen, and dug a grave for her and laid her in it, and made a mound above it, on which he sat down and fretted until he died too, And then everyone was dead. The end. You didn't write that. Who wrote that? Someone wrote that. I know, it's sort of like, it's kind of like my, kind of an homage to the sort of things that I was thinking about. And, do you, listen, I actually I'm getting word from my sponsors that I need to put on an anti-smoking ad because of your promos, and so just a minute, hold on.
Hey dude, could I crash a fagorette?
Sure thing, Billy, but it may be your last.
And that was David Firth's advertisement, and it was supposed to be video, but I didn't have a lot of time, and it said there's a skeleton playing the guitar, and it said smoking will make you dead, so keep that in mind. And now, back to the interview. Zach, I know that you are a good writer, and I love that. Wait, Peter, how come you accused me of not writing it? You read it already. Well, that was actually a little bit of a ruse. You see, I can trick people too, and I just tricked you, and you didn't write that. It was from a collection of German tales. Must I go on? No, alright, you caught me. But on the other hand, actually, if you read the Borges story about Don Quixote, it was like the guy wrote Don Quixote second. He like wrote it word for word, and it was better than the first version. I mean, it wasn't a version. It was two different stories, which just happened to be composed of identical text. And the original 17th century Spanish novel sucked, and the modern version was good because of, various reasons. So what I'm saying to you right now is that I did the same thing, so come on, give it up. And that's why I'm good. That's why I'm groundbreaking. Well, alright, that's fine. I was gonna ask you to read another story, if you don't mind, and it's gonna be a story of your choosing. What do you say? Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. This sheep's called mantids, order Mantodea. As hunters, a mantid is the insect's answer to the chameleon, a static, well-disguised creature that preys on insects and spiders by a lunge, not of the tongue, as in the chameleon, but of the great raptorial front legs. Mantids have a highly mobile periscope of a head with huge compound eyes set at the end of an elongate, often elaborate, neck-like front part of the thorax, called prothorax. Their forewings are thickened, their hind wings membranous. Female mantids are famous for eating their mates, often during copulation. The method is gruesome but economical, and avid Darwinians might suggest that a female who eats her mate ensures there's a typo, I think. Ensures thereby that he will not inseminate any other females whose offspring would in turn be rivals to her own. Most of the 1,800 species of mantid are tropical. A few are temperate. So Zach, tell me a little bit about where you get your ideas from. 'Cause after all, I know I say it every week, but the show that we're doing right now is a show of ideas, and I just need to get it's basically where this is kind of a podcast where we throw around ideas, kind of get dirty a little bit, and just see what comes out of our minds. So I was just wondering where you get all your ideas, because a novelist, it's easy being a novelist because you don't even need to have very many ideas. You just have one idea and just blah 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 about it until you totally until you just decide, oh, it's time for me to go get a hoagie, and then you stop and you're done. But like when you write short stories, every day is a new ordeal. You have to wake up and you think, oh God, that's the first thing you think when you wake up. And so I was just wondering, like, what's your take? Peter, I have 5 words for you. Give me a break, dude. Because for me, writing a novel and writing a short story are really similar. By the way, you're really phoning this interview in, huh? But, you know, like, I mean, first of all, plenty of writers of short stories make chapters, especially for kind of the longer ones, like your 5,000, 6,000 word guys going on there. I don't want to say that they need to be subsectioned, but they want to be. I wrote the short story, and and like one of the main issues that it had was that it did not explore in any meaningful way anything about the craft of short story writing, because you see, it was a short story about short stories. It was one of those kind of stories, and I turned it in to my, I go to a bar and we all talk about our stories and stuff, and everybody was thinking, and like I knew that they were gonna think this before I even sent it in, so it's like not even that a problem really. I knew it was gonna happen. It was inevitable. But they all said, like, dude, you did a whole thing on short stories and you didn't even really talk about them. You just filled space. And I was thinking, like, you're right, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to like change. I'll go into first draft mode, and then I'll basically just, I'll switch like said to muttered. That's like basically the most heavy editing I can do. It's a terrible problem that I have, and I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. I'm going to write first drafts for the rest of my life. But I'll tell you one thing, Petey Weedy, the first drafts that I write are so much better than everybody else's first drafts, at the expense of never improving at all. Like, I'll have a rough draft at 25%, everyone else will have a rough draft at 10%, and then after 5, 6, 7 drafts, I will have gotten a 7th draft at 27%, and everybody else's drafts have gone from 10 to 90, 95%. Now, what exactly is a percentage? What is that in a story? I just mean, like, of goodness. The stories that my rough drafts tell are 25% good, and the stories that my 7th drafts tell are 27% good, and the stories that the other people in my bar workshop, we call it a bar shop, it's we all go on the weekends, their stories are 10% good in their first drafts, and then they're 90 to 95% good in their... I hate to repeat myself, I know this is a family show, but I feel like what I was saying kind of didn't make any sense. No, it made perfect sense. I understood exactly what you were saying. Oh, okay. Well, thanks a lot. If that even makes any sense, to even thank you for thank you for listening, and thank you for understanding. It's not even really up to you. Well, I don't know why I'm thanking you for understanding. If you don't understand, it's not like you're doing me a favor by like knowing what I say. The favor is listening and trying to understand, and for that I thank you. But it's my responsibility to make sure that what I'm saying is actually understandable. Like I say plenty of things all day long that are understandable, but people don't understand them because they're not listening, or because they only speak French, etc. But you were listening hard, and you did a good job of doing that. But I have to leave. I have to go home now. But thanks for having fun with me on the radio, Peter. Okay, so that was Zach Galifianakis. He was my 15th guest, I think. Unless one of my shows had more or less than one guest, because this is the 15th episode of the Flight of the 50 Fancies. You're listening to Flight of the 50 Fancies, and how can I help you? So what the heck? No letters this week. What did I say? Something bad? Did I do that thing where if I said it on Twitter, everyone would say I was bad? Because that's my worst nightmare, is to wake up and be like, oh no, I can't believe I said that. Now everyone thinks I'm a bigot. Like what if I do a Kramer or something? What if I do that? So I'm just going to open a page at random and hope it's not hateful, because I feel like, I didn't get a letter, but I still want to read some kind of a thing so why not rando? Let's just see here. Just flipping. Okay, got it. Page 40 of some crap. Okay, it says, here's text 9. A direct perception, text 9 to 12. A direct perception is a consciousness through the object itself only. When a consciousness arises only on account of the objective sense after which it is designated, and not through anything else, then this cognition is direct perception. For example, cognitions of visibles, etc., or cognitions of pleasure, etc. With this definition, false cognitions are rejected. For example, the cognition of mother of pearl as silver. For this cognition is designated by silver as a silver cognition, but does not arise on account of silver, but rather is evoked through mother of pearl. A conventional cognition is also rejected by this definition. For such a cognition is designated as a cognition of pots, etc., but does not arise on account of pots, which are really existing, but rather only through juxtaposition of visibles, etc., which are interpreted as pots. End note. According to the provisional theory most beloved to Vasu Bandhu, what we normally perceive as entities are in no way really entities. So, for instance, pots is a mere conventional expression for an interdependent complex with no unifying entity entering in. Return to text. Pots themselves can in no way give rise to this cognition because of their conventionality, and their thus not being in a state of being a cause. Finally, cognition through inference is also rejected by this definition, because such a cognition occurs, for instance, through the cognition of smoke and the memory of its invariable concomitance with fire, but not through the fire itself. That through which exclusively the cognition arises and does not exist unless it arises, is regarded as an object in this passage. End note. The object is that without which a cognition cannot arise. This definition does not say anything about the ontological status of the object. It only says that without that which is designated as an object, there is no cognition. Return to text. Knowledge which arises when an invariably concomitant object is observed is inference. Invariable concomitance means that one object cannot arise unless the other one exists, as, for example, fire and smoke. The non-observation of a possibility of one's arising without the other is inference, and it is through this invariable concomitance that something may be inferred. Accordingly, the cognition of an object which may be inferred is the result of an inference. By this definition, false cognitions are rejected. Knowledge through inference can be specified as an observation coming when the means of evidence is directly observed, and the invariable concomitance between it and what can be inferred is remembered. 1. The event in the demonstrandum does not occur unless something else, the means of evidence, is directly known. Otherwise there is no inference. Flaws exist in a rejoinder when it is reversed, incorrect, or contradictory. A rejoinder is reversed when in the anterior thesis the formulation of the argument is separate from the characteristic of a true justification. End note. Anterior thesis is the usual Indian scholastic term for an opponent's thesis, since this is always presented first. Return to text. An incorrect rejoinder is any that is false, i.e., when the object does not exist in the manner in which the thesis states that it does. A contradictory rejoinder is one that cannot coexist with its own thesis. Among these, the reversed etc. include spurious replies based on identity of the objects, complete unrelatedness of the objects, various alternatives, non-differentiation, lack of a justification, excess, reduction, direct apprehension, irrelevant to the inference, doubts, non-utterance, difference of effect, etc. Types of spurious replies as categorized by the Nyaya Sutra. So nobody sent me a letter. Everybody, you gotta keep sending me letters. Sweet dreams.